Hello Algebra 2. In this video lesson we're going to jump ahead to chapter 4.5 because I want you to see how the graphing calculator can help you solve systems of equations. This video is just going to be about literally what you do to make the graphing calculator work for you on this problem. I'll make a separate video on why this works. So I think it's going to be important that you watch that separate video as well so you understand what you're doing. Right now I'm just going to show you steps that you're going to follow. I'm going to put the homework assignment on the other video, the one that explains why it works, so that I encourage you to actually watch that one. Okay, so let's say that we have an even more complicated system of equations than we've looked at before. The most complicated we've looked at up until now has been a 3 by 3, as I call it, and that means in that case you would have 3 equations with 3 variables. In this case we've got 4 equations, and notice we've got 4 variables, w as well as x and y and z. Well, what you do in terms of using the graphing calculator is you take those coefficients on the left and you make a table of them. It's called a matrix, and in fact that's what we're going to be talking about all through chapter 4 is matrices, or matrices as they're called. So you're literally just going to strip out the coefficients and only pay attention to the numbers. Ignore the letters for now. And then you're going to make a second similar matrix, this time with the results on the right. And you're going to do something called applying the inverse of this first matrix. Don't worry about what that means right now. Like I said, this video is only about what you do, not why it works. So you're going to end up, what you're literally going to do is multiply the inverse of this one times that one. And what you're going to end up with as a result, and it'll look again like a matrix, is a set of 4 numbers in a column, and those 4 numbers will represent the w value, x and y and z, and those will be your answers. So you need to enter that into a graphing calculator. Let me show you how to do that. Okay, here's my calculator, and notice the blue label here on this button. The blue label says matrix. So in order to get the matrix screen to come up, I have to hit second and then that button. And this is what the matrix screen looks like. Now, this is going to be called a 4 by 4, this matrix here. So in order to enter a 4 by 4, I've first got to do edit. So before I do anything else, I scroll over to edit, and I'm going to put it in as my first matrix. Notice I can have a bunch of different matrices or matrices if I want. Right now 7 would show on my screen, but I only want to deal with that first one. So I'm going to hit enter, and now I'm going to change this. Currently it's set up to be a 1 by 1. I'm going to change it to be a 4 by 4 by hitting 4, enter, 4, enter. And now I've got enough space for it to be a 4 by 4. Actually on my screen here only the first 3 columns show. And I'm just going to start plugging this information in. You'll see as I plug it in, it'll do this first number and it'll work across the row, and once that row is finished it'll wrap back around and start the second row. So I'm going to put in 1, then 2, then 4, then 3. 1, enter, 2, enter, 4, enter, 3, enter. And now notice it wrapped back around and it's ready to start the second row, -1. Make sure when you do negatives that you use this button. Don't use that. That's one of the most common sources of errors when you use a matrix. That's not a negative sign, that's a minus sign, or a subtraction sign. So -1, enter, and the next one's 2, enter. Okay, I'm going to pause it here and I'm going to finish this off. I'm not going to make you watch me enter all these numbers. Okay, at this point I have all of the values from this matrix entered into the calculator, and you'll notice, and you should actually go back and double check and make sure you've done it correctly. If I look at this last column here, it's 3, 4, 1, -3. 3, 4, 1, -3 is what I was supposed to enter, and it is a 4 by 4 matrix. Okay, so the next thing I have to do is enter these values for the second matrix, the one I'm going to multiply by. So first I've got to clear the screen, and I find that, notice that says quit there, that second mode often works for clearing screens. So there, the screen's now cleared. Now I go back to the matrix screen. By the way, I'm going to have a one-page guide on my website that lists all of these steps. So if this is a little bit difficult to follow with the video, you'll be able to go back and work on these problems with the guide in your hands as well. Go back to the matrix screen by hitting second matrix. Okay. Now I want to create a second matrix, and the calculator will think of this as my B matrix, and I'm going to put in these values. So again, I've got to go over to Edit to do that. One of the weirdest things is you have to go over to Edit first, and then go down to B, and hit Enter. And now you're editing your B matrix. This has 4 rows and 1 column. It's a 4 by 1. I know it's easy to make the mistake of thinking maybe this is a 1 by 4. Let me just show you what would have happened if I'd entered 1 by 4 instead. If I'd hit 1, enter, or enter. Now it's just one long row instead of one column. It's set up differently than what I want. I'll talk to you later about why it's important that it be a 4 by 1. For now, I just wanted to show you what to do. So now I got to go back up, make that a 4 by 1. Good. Now I've got one column. I just enter these numbers, 1350 to down to negative 2100. I'll show you entering the first one, and then I'll pause the video. Okay, now that I've finished entering all 4 of those numbers, you can see that this 4 by 1 matrix that I have in my calculator matches the 4 by 1 matrix that I wrote down here from my problem. Now the next thing I do, again, clear the screen. This is the easiest way to work this, so hit second mode or second quit. I've got a clear screen now. Now I just want to grab that first matrix, second matrix, and this time, instead of scrolling over to Edit, I'm just going to select it. I'm going to hit Enter. Now remember, I want the inverse of this one. The nice thing is I've got an inverse button, so I hit that. Now I go back to my matrix screen, second matrix. I pick my second one. I hit Enter, and there they are side by side. First matrix, inverse of it, that's what I wanted here, and second matrix, that's this one. Now if I hit Enter again, I'm going to get my answer. And there it is, 150, 300, negative 300, 600. That's my W answer, that's my X, that's my Y, that's my Z, as I've already put here on the slide. That's all there is to it. It goes that quickly, and the more you do these, the more quickly you move through this process. So I'm going to give you one to practice. Go ahead. This time, notice though, this is a 3 by 3 instead of a 4 by 4 system. So I'm going to pull up my calculator, and if you had been following along with me, if you'd done what I'd done, you need to go, well, you got to clear your screen first with, I guess you can hit clear to do that this time. Do second matrix, and remember these are 4 by 4 and 4 by 1. I don't want that. I want a 3 by 3 and a 3 by 1. So if you already got that in there, you got to go back and not only enter the numbers, but you got to change this to a 3 by 3. So I'll just do that for you here. 3, enter, 3, enter. And now it's ready to be a 3 by 3 matrix. I enter those coefficients, and I'm ready to go. Go ahead. I'm going to hit the pause button. You should be doing the same, and when you come back, I'm going to show you the answers. Okay, I'm going to assume that you've done that you've put the coefficients from the left side in as your first matrix, and the constants from the right side in as your second matrix. You've multiplied the inverse of this times that matrix, and if you did, you should have gotten this as your answer. Negative 10, 5, 0. Notice that when it came out on your calculator, it would have been in a column with negative 10 at the top and 0 at the bottom, but this represents the same information. And that's all there is to it. I encourage you to watch the other video that explains why this works.